Man, y'all know what it is. The real two-tet, all praise to God for everything. I mean, every single thing. I'm here with my brother Marathon Manny, and we have a special guest with us tonight. Well, listen, y'all, we had to drive all the way to Chapel Hill, North Carolina to chill with the one and only Mr. Champ. But listen, I'm telling you, road trip. Before we start, we always do a mental health check-in. How you feeling, Mr. Champ?
I'm doing pretty good, sir.
Absolutely. How about yourself, Marathon?
I'm blessed, man. Happy to be here.
Yes, sir.
Happy to be here. What's up,
And for me, like I always say, man, if I put my 2 feet on the ground every day, it's a win. All praise to God. But listen, Champ, take us back to the beginning, man. Like, where you from originally?
Southeast Washington, D.C.
Okay, Southeast Washington, D.C. Yes, sir. How was life for you growing up? Grew up in a 2-parent household? How was it?
Well, I grew up in a 2-parent household. Life was pretty good.
Yes, sir.
My father was one of the well-to-do people in the community.
Yes, sir.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you speak highly of your father too, man. Shout out to your father, man. I learned things from him, and I never even met him. Mm-hmm. I swear. And I'm gonna tell him how we met, champ.
Yeah.
I'm gonna tell him
how we met. Get into it.
So right here, when y'all speak highly of me, and y'all see, you know what I'm saying, like, see how I carry myself. It's been from the game I done soaked up from a lot of OGs and things I done learned from a lot of older individuals. And right here is one of my role models, one of my big homies, big brothers, and OGs right here, this Champ. You know what I'm saying? I met him in 2019? Yeah, I met you 2019 when I first came to Kentucky, to Manchester, Kentucky. I met him, and I was in the feds, you know what I'm saying? We was doing time together. I ended up becoming his celly and just grew so close to him. He ended up training me, teaching me how to box. You know what I'm saying? We just built a strong bond, strong relationship, and, I done stayed in contact with him since I've been out. You know what I'm saying? He taught me a lot. He gave me a lot of game when I was inside and stuff. So you got any questions for you?
So I want to say, before we talk about jail, talk about your boxing history, because Manny told me you were a phenomenal boxer, like you just said. You told him about a couple things, training-wise. So talk about your start in that, and like, how long have you been doing it?
Well, I've been boxing since I was like 13, 14 years old.
Okay.
I started out, I learned Chinese Kung Fu. And a guy seen me doing Kung Fu, and he figured he wanted to teach me how to box. A guy named Sonny.
Yep.
Used to be at number 14 Boys Club. And so I learned how to, boxing techniques through him. And I just grew from there. I had numerous trainers after him, but he was my foundation.
Yes, sir.
He gave me the things that I needed to get through the rest of my travels.
Absolutely.
He gave me a good foundation to work with.
So let me ask you this: did you enjoy every bit of boxing? Is it something that you still do currently to this day?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir. I still train guys. I still get calls to look at guys. I still get guys to call me so they can get ready for fights.
Yeah. So who was your all-time favorite boxer besides yourself?
Well, one of my favorite fighters is Evander Holyfield. Evander Holyfield was one of the best textbook fighters that you ever see. He did everything the way the book say you're supposed to do it. He was one of the best textbook fighters that you ever see.
Absolutely. So let me ask you this, man. Like, if you want to speak about it, so you said Manny said he met you in prison. Like, what did you go to prison for?
I went to prison for armed robbery.
Okay. Armed robbery.
And some things, happen, and I got caught.
Yes, sir.
So that's how that happened.
Let me ask you this. I asked Manny this on our first podcast. Do you think prison rehabilitate people, as they say?
No.
See?
They warehouse you.
Okay.
Prison warehouse people with very little rehabilitation.
Yep.
It's up to the individual to get rehabilitated. It depends on what you go in to get out of it. Because if you want to subject yourself to a bunch of BS, that's what you're going to get. But if you're about rehabilitation, you can get that also. but it depends on where you look for the rehabilitation at.
Right.
You can't look for the rehabilitation strictly in the prison system. You know, because you have people outside of the prison system have a lot more to offer you than the prison system itself.
Right.
You know, because like people like yourself, like Manny, or maybe me, I'm gonna be real with you. Prison system not. They gonna sell you some stuff that somebody printed up on a piece of paper, and you know, you go through 16 hours, 8 hours, 24 hours, whatever, however long you got to take this course and complete the course. It don't mean you're rehabilitated,
Right.
because you got to figure out where your heart at. If your heart is not into what you was participating in, because I can go through the motions and do anything.
Right. Facts. That's a fact. That's a fact.
Bullshit your way through anything.
Yeah, fact. That's a fact.
I can go through the motions with anything.
That's a fact.
But if my heart is in it, you know, this is something that I can commit to.
And you speaking of that, I heard you were like a jack of all trades. You would do pretty much everything: boxing, fix cars, you know, so many things. You even took us for a nice ride, a nice car that you have. Won't say what it is, but beautiful car.
That thing go
Tell me. So, talk about that. How did you develop those skills? Is it somebody that taught you? How was it?
Well, to be honest with you, when I was young, I was about 15, 16 years old. My dad, I speak highly of my dad. I speak about my dad often. And my dad seen I was in the streets. When he seen I was in the streets, he pulled me in, he reeled me in. And say, look here, boy, you out there, you need to learn this. Because if them streets fail you, this right here, you have always. You know, that's how I learned how to lay brick. Because when he pulled me in, he taught me my trade. He say, if all else fail you, you always got this. You know, I'm a master brick mason.
Absolutely. Phenomenal.
I'm a master brick mason.
Teacher in the prison.
And actually, in the prison that we was in, I started the brick masonry program.
Teaching dudes how to do that.
But the thing is, I committed myself to that because just like my dad told me, after you learn this, this is something that you have for the rest of your life.
Absolutely.
Not just for today, not just for tomorrow, you know.
And so, being in the prison system, you know, you say this, man, some of the smartest people are in the prison system. You know, what's your take on that? You agree with that statement or what?
Well, kind of. I can't say I fully agree with it.
Okay.
Kind of I do. Because I've learned things in the prison system that I've never thought existed in the real world. You know, so.
That's a question, man. So, you one of the people I looked up to the past couple of years when I was in prison, right? And there's something that I always observed about you. You always had a sense of composure, like whatever. Like you done seen me be frustrated, be mad about shit, and you used to always have composure, like you was in control of yourself, right? No matter what we was going through, you always had a sense of control. You know what I'm saying? We done been on lockdown before. Me and him done caught a knife charge because they found a knife in our cell that wasn't ours. We beat. Man, this was my co-defendant at one point. We beat the charge together, man. We beat the charge together.
Shout out.
But you know, I just want to know, man, what is that sense of composure, that control, like that's, man, you just got this solidness about you. Like, how'd you gain that, and where you get that from?
Well, see, one thing that you learn when I studied Kung Fu, Chinese Kung Fu, you got to be able to think before you do anything. If you can't think, you can't fight, you can't move, you can't exist.
Absolutely.
And so, in order for you to move through life, you got to be able to think your way through it. You know, you don't have to give it much thought.
Absolutely.
But you have to consider what your situation is. You know, so you don't get upset. You use rationale instead of emotions.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
You know.
Yeah, man. So let me ask you this, man. Like, with all the things you've been through, the accomplishments you make, what is something you look forward to when you wake up every single day? Like, something you're most proud of?
Well, what I'm most proud of is living.
Absolutely.
Because a lot of people never thought I'd live to be 57 years old. You know, I'm talking about, I had people like my dad. He had insurance on me since I was 17, 18 years old. Because he didn't expect me to get past 25.
Man.
You know.
So talk about that. Like, you know, you said your dad didn't expect you to live past 25, right? So what was it? Because you grew up in a two-parent household. Because you see a lot of kids these days, right? They don't come up in a two-parent household and always just mom around, dad ain't around. But you grew up in a two-parent household, and during that era, there was a lot of two-parent households. Like, what gravitates you towards the streets instead of like, you know what, I'm gonna go to school, I'm gonna do this. Not saying you didn't go to school, but how did you get caught up in that stuff?
Well, actually, it came a point where I left home.
Okay.
You know, and my dad told me, okay, this is my house.
Absolutely.
When you get your house, you make your rules. And I decided I was going to get my house and make my rules.
Right, yeah.
And so when I left his house, I was by myself, doing what I wanted to do at a very young age. And so now you talking about 17, 18, 19 years old, by yourself, doing what you want to do with no consequences other than the consequences that you make for yourself. It's a thing where, you know, it can cut your life expectancy
short.
short.
Most definitely. I definitely understand that.
It can cut your life expectancy short.
Sure.
And so I survived through that. So
Absolutely. Let me ask you this: do you have any siblings?
yes, I do.
Okay.
You know, I have brothers, I have sisters, you know, and we still in close contact.
Okay.
We still
I was
love
about
and
to
care
ask you
for
that.
each
Absolutely.
other.
Okay.
You know, I'm talking about sometimes I call them
Yep.
on a daily basis just to tell them I love you.
Shout
You
out
know,
for that.
or
For sure.
just call them and say, how you doing, sis? What's up? You know.
For sure. So in life, you know, we always, you know, credit, you know, things to certain people. Who is somebody that you credit a lot of things to? I know you said your dad, but talk about who your dad was as a person.
Okay, I'm gonna tell you about my dad.
Yeah.
A lot of people look for superheroes.
Yes, sir.
My dad was my superhero. I'm talking about he was Superman to me. I'm talking about my dad did things in situations like in prison and stuff like that. Sometimes he never pulled me all the way out. But guess what? He pulled my head out the water so I can catch a breath. You know, so I can survive. You know. But he let me feel the repercussions of my actions.
Absolutely.
But he let me know I'm still here. But you got to deal with this too.
Absolutely.
You know.
That's powerful, man, because, you know, sometimes we don't really give our dad all the credit. You know, it's always mom. No, shout out to the mom. Shout out to the moms. You know, I got a phenomenal mother. But it's just like, just hearing about your dad, because that's how my dad was, a superhero. I didn't see my dad all the time because he was working on other things, but he was my superhero looking back, hindsight on my life where I'm at now, you know. So that's phenomenal, man. That's phenomenal. Shout out to the fathers out there, man. So if you can go back, I'm going to ask you this, champ. If you can go back and talk to a 12-year-old champ, what would you tell that man?
Listen to the things your father tell you. Because he's not as stupid as you may think he is. You know, because I know when I was a young man, I used to think, my dad tell me stuff, oh man, that's that old timey stuff.
Yeah,
man,
I ain't trying to listen to
they
that.
ain't doing that no more.
Yeah.
You know.
For
But
sure.
guess what? I can sit here today at 57 years old and tell you 85 to 90% of the things that he told me have came true. You know.
So let me ask you this. You have any kids?
Yes, I do.
Talk about your kids and what they mean to you.
Well, my kids mean everything to me. I'm talking about I've did things. I'm talking about I bent over backwards. I've taken numerous sacrifices for my children. You know, and continue to do so.
Absolutely.
You know, but sometimes things are not as easy as I want them to be. But I keep striving to do the best that I can. And I think I've told Manny and I told a couple other people, for me, if I can be half the man to my children as my father was to me, I'd be a great father. You know.
Sure.
And on a ride down here, Manny had told me some things, just trying to fill you out before I get down here. He had told me your daughter passed while you were incarcerated.
Oh, yes.
So how did that affect you?
Oh, it hurt. It hurt. I'm talking about because, see, Brittany, that was my heart. That was all of my heart.
Yeah, absolutely.
But Brittany, she was a college-educated student. She went to college. She didn't graduate. She didn't get a degree. But she was college-educated. And she decided at 26, 27 years old that she wanted to gangbang. Okay, and like I used to tell Manny now, I'm sad because of, you know, her passing and things like that. But some of the things that happened with her are things that she brought upon herself. See, because like even when I was in, I used to, like guys used to tell me, especially some guys, Midwest guys, they used to tell me, man, my son just got killed, this and that. I say, but was he out there in that life? See, you got to consider that. Okay, don't nobody want to hear about the passing of their child, you know, but you got to consider the circumstances of what brought that along. Right. You know.
Let me ask you this. Do you think, do you believe in karma? Because me and Manny had talked about, you know, karma on the way down. I got my opinion about it. He had his opinion about it. And I asked you that because, like, sometimes when you live a certain life, your kids may already be involved in that life coming up, you know?
Yeah.
So what's your take on karma?
See, karma is a thing that I believe in because, you know, I'm talking about, I've studied martial arts for a long time. And that's one of the things that they teach you. And if you put bad things out there in the universe, or if you put good things out there in the universe, I'm talking about those things come back to you. You know, and like, if I go around disrespecting you, disrespecting him, disrespecting my mother, disrespecting, you know, family members and stuff like that, and when I get old and don't nobody want to look after me or don't want to deal with me, guess what? Them are things that I put out there.
Brought it upon yourself.
Yeah, I brought it upon myself. And a lot of times, especially when you're dealing with the street and society, them are things that happen as well.
Absolutely.
Okay, I can go through life disrespecting the streets or disrespecting society, and when something bad happened to me, how can anybody expect anything less? You know, I'm talking about, say for instance, I go out there, you know, smacking people out. Dude asked me, "Excuse me, sir, do you have $1?" You know, no, neck, pow. Okay. Now, not thinking that this guy I assumed was a bum, or assumed that was nobody, was somebody to somebody else. And now, that person that he was somebody to, seeing what I did to him, and do the same or worse to me.
Absolutely.
Guess what? That's something that I brought upon myself.
Karma.
Yeah, karma.
Sure.
So, with all that being said, you know, just doing all these things in life and going through those trials and tribulations in the era, are you proud of who you are today?
Well, yes, I am. I am proud of the man that I look at every morning in the mirror because I've grown a lot. I've accumulated a lot, you know, and became close to the man that I wanted to be.
Absolutely. I love that. Love that. Love that.
Not fully, but close.
Mm-hmm.
I still got work that I got to do.
Absolutely.
But I'm working on it.
Mm-hmm. Love that. That's something to say, man. Go ahead, Marathon.
Yeah, man. You know, let's close it out with a few things, right? Well, for one, you know, we be trying to grab the attention of a lot of young dudes, right? That's living a certain way too, right? And just like myself, I know some of them trying to make it to be your age. I know I'm trying to make it this.
Sure.
You feel me?
Sure.
You've been through a whole lot, and I learned from some of your experiences, so I won't even had to go through. With that being said, do you have anything that, like a message to all these youngins out here that's living in that type of lifestyle that we come from? Like any message that you could give them, something, just a core lesson in life or something that they should apply in their life.
Well, my core lesson is try to think about the things you do before you do them.
Mm-hmm.
Because every action has an opposite or equal reaction. And don't think that you can do something and it don't have a reaction.
Absolutely.
You know. And everything, sometimes it has a short-term effect.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it has a long-term effect.
Mm-hmm.
But it's going to have an effect. You know, so.
And look, I want to say this every time I just keep thinking about things, right? Great interview. Accountability, because you just said something very impactful. A lot of people don't take accountability. Like, you see your kids out there, your son died, your daughter died, whatever. They brought it upon themselves. So what's your key take on accountability and why people don't take accountability for when things go wrong in their life?
Well, see, a lot of people are in denial.
Mm-hmm.
Because, okay, you say that, man, I don't know why they treat me like this. All this I done for them.
Mm-hmm.
But guess what?
Mm-hmm.
You don't think about the times when you was out there doing the things that you was doing, and you was just thinking about you, your girlfriend, or the other girl down the street, and you know your mama in the house. She got a half a thing of spoiled milk in the refrigerator, but you ain't buy no groceries for her.
But for your girl,
yeah,
for sure.
And so now you in a bad situation, and you calling mama.
On that call, that girl that you were doing everything for.
Yeah,
for sure.
She was only there for a good time, not a long time.
Facts.
Yeah, there you go.
Facts.
See?
Real shit.
This is a great interview, man.
Yeah,
and
well,
let me see. You got any more questions, man? Yeah, go ahead, man. Because I was just thinking, I got something to think. Go ahead, man. I got something. Yeah.
I mean, listen, Champ, I'm gonna give him his flowers, man. This man is a great man. You know what I'm saying? I look up to him, and I appreciate everything he taught me. Legacy, right? What's something that you want to just leave behind when you go? Like, what's something you want to leave behind? Like the impact that you want to leave behind on anybody, anybody's life that you done touched.
Well, the impact I want to leave is just a memory of me. Because if I touch you, all well and fine. If I pass by you, all well and fine. But the ones I touched, I tried to. The ones I didn't try to. So, you know,
simple as that.
Yeah,
Simple as
you,
that.
man, straight up and down.
Man, phenomenal, man. Just the way he answered the question, just phenomenal, man. So, yeah. So there you have it. Another episode of The Real, featuring the one and only Champ, my brother Marathon Manny. You know, drove all the way down here to North Carolina to see him in person. Great brother, phenomenal brother, man. And listen, stay tuned, man, because we're going to keep on growing and getting better and better.
If you see a knockout punch from me, that's because he taught me.
No, of course. There you go.
The real.
The champ is here. The real.
If you're not on the field, you're There you go.
Bam.